Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unloaded. I'm CC.
I'm Deuce.
And hey, on this episode, we just kind of talk about whatever we want. We don't really have anything scripted. We just kind of figure out a few topics that we just want to touch base on and just kind of talk from the heart, kind of impromptu on everything. And today we've got some really good subjects that we just want to kind of touch base on. One of which is kind of it's a brand new topic. It's 5 days old here in Indiana, is the new constitutional carry. And, one of the really great things, and I love talking to people from out of state when they come to Indiana, whether for one of our shooting events or here visiting family, and the family brings them over to the wonderful gun shop we have out here, and we just start talking. People don't realize how gun-friendly Indiana is. And if I was to make a list, I would put it in the top 5 out of all 50 states as far as gun-friendly states, and how our legislation looks at firearm ownership and actually treats it, in my opinion, the proper way. And with the new constitutional carry, what they've done here in Indiana, you don't have to have a permit if you can legally own. Now there's the key word. You can't be a felon and now constitutional carry. All right, it doesn't work that way. You've lost that right when you become a felon. But if you can legally purchase a firearm, you can legally carry it without a permit. And this would be in a open carry side of things. For the most part, is what the push was for this as an open carry option. I'm not an overly big fan of the open carry side of things, but concealed carry is where I want everybody to kind of lean towards and plan on carrying the firearm. And we can cover that now, or we can cover that on another episode, why one versus the other.
Right.
But, Indiana just passed that. It went into effect July 1st, as does all new laws for Indiana. They always start July 1st and January 1st. So this one went in for July 1st. And there again, you don't have to go get the permit. Now, the thing with that I'm telling everybody is still go ahead and get your permits.
Yes.
And let me explain why. Because right now with the constitutional carry, that's a great thing. But if we don't go get the permits, Indianapolis has always been the politicians in Indianapolis, from the Indianapolis inner city districts, from the Gary, Hobart, Hammond, Schererville area politicians, and even to a certain extent Fort Wayne and maybe South Bend. The politicians there, the Democrats that are there, they constantly are looking at statistics related to guns. If we only constitutional carry, there's going to be no statistics. It's going to show a drop in gun permits or / their interpretation is going to be gun ownership. Yeah. And as long as we're still getting permits, everybody's going to get their permits. It's still going to show up in the database as 65% of Indiana owns guns because they've all gone out and got permits. The other big advantage to getting the permit is, well, number one, there's no cost to it anymore other than the processing fee for the credit card. And there's no class that needs to be taken. You just need to be an upstanding citizen with no criminal history. Yeah. That's it. So when you put in for that permit, within a few weeks, you'll get your permit. And then that allows you to also carry in reciprocity. And that's a very big one if you're going to go into Michigan, if you're going to go into Ohio, Kentucky, even Illinois now. With some of the law changes there, you can conceal carry, but only in your vehicle, which that's a whole nother episode in itself. Right. But you want that reciprocity. And if you say you don't travel out of state much, okay, there's the optimal word, much.
Right.
All it takes is once. One family member gets sick, you want to go to Ohio to see them. You want to take your gun with you. Right. You want to conceal carry anytime that you can. You don't know when you're going to need it. So take it with you, especially on trips. So have that permit. Go ahead and get that permit and have it. But there again, them adding the constitutional carry has been a great thing. It's another step in protecting our gun rights within the state, and kudos to all the politicians involved in making that happen. It's a big win for the Second Amendment in the state of Indiana. So,
especially in this day and age. So
absolutely, absolutely.
And the political climate as it is.
Yeah. Yep. And
coming, being a lifelong born and raised Michigan guy, I've been here 2 years now. Man, it's just awesome feeling.
Sure.
I mean, and you mentioned earlier how gun friendly Indiana is. It's Indiana by and large is freedom friendly. Is what I've found.
Yes.
It was so nice to come to a state where I didn't have to register every handgun I bought, and which is basically a money grab in most cases in Michigan, and that's an archaic Michigan law that's been on the books since 1920.
Right.
That all it really does is, they spend a whole bunch of money on maintaining a database for all of those registered handguns, and nobody's ever been actually able to see that it's deterred anything. Right. So shockingly enough, criminals still commit crime. With illegally acquired firearms.
Sure.
So, but yeah, a huge deal. And but I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've got my lifetime permit and just got it last year and don't regret it. I'm glad I did it. And even though constitutional carry is on, when I go back home to Michigan, I know that I'm covered.
Absolutely.
From a reciprocity standpoint. So it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you mentioned it right there, is Indiana's a lifetime permit. You can get a short permit, but I don't know why you would unless you're military and definitely moving out of state or something like that, unless there's a very definitive reason. I think, very small percentage would need that one. But go ahead and get the lifetime permit. As long as you're a resident of Indiana, that permit's good. Yes. So that's fantastic. And for them to ever repeal that would be a very, very difficult thing.
Yes.
Let's everybody go out and go ahead and get your permits, but enjoy the fact that we do offer the constitutional carry. And that constitutional carry, I guess, where it comes into play as a nice extra safe haven is if you have relatives coming into town that want to conceal carry or want to carry and they don't have a reciprocity permit or whatever, it doesn't matter. They have our constitutional carry for the state. They can utilize that. So it's pretty great. Another big win for the Second Amendment was the recent Supreme Court ruling, against New York regarding their issuance of permits. Now, there again, New York responded in kind and immediately started adding some new laws. I mean, almost in a panic-stricken state, adding some new laws regarding businesses, regarding signage and that type of thing. But it was, in essence, a very large win for the Second Amendment and ruled on by the Supreme Court. So they aren't going to be able to overturn that easy in any way, shape, or form, and there's no appeal process for that part of it. There can only be new laws that we have to take to the Supreme Court and fight about. So we are winning in a lot of different realms, folks. And on another episode, we'll talk more about some of the new safe gun laws that have been put out that we do or don't agree with. But that just covers a couple of the topics right now that we wanted to kind of touch on a little bit on this episode. So anything else to add on the
I have a very good friend I'm very close with and talk to him several times a week, a New Yorker, lives on Long Island. Yeah. And we've had an opportunity to discuss that on the phone several times over the last couple of weeks. And, it's a win for them, but it isn't at the same time, because he said that the day it happened, they're just going to come up with something else. Sure. And in that case, you've got a lifetime New Yorker who loves his city, loves where he's from, born and raised, a lot of pride, that cannot wait to get out of there.
Sure.
Tax paying, high functioning, upstanding citizen that cannot wait to escape.
With a family.
Yeah, with a family. And I feel terrible for that because that's his home.
You're right.
But it literally, it's gotten to the point where he's like, all right.
Yeah.
He's going to be, when retirement comes very shortly, he's going to be on to greener pastures,
Yeah, and that's what these states aren't realizing is, they want their retirees to stay. They need them to stay because what do they do in retirement? They spend money on leisure, on travel, on, of course, everyday necessities if they live there. But, and typically when people retire, they have more money than they do when they're 20. So at least I hope they do, or otherwise they're not retiring. But yet they have all these people retiring and moving out of state as quickly as possible. We have another friend of ours, cowboy shooter, just moved to Tennessee, from California. Could not wait to get out of California.
Was visibly excited when you would talk to him about, and again, he loved his home.
Sure.
He loved the people
community,
that he worked with, community and stuff.
Absolutely.
He just got to the point where he's like, enough is enough.
Yep.
I'm out.
Yep.
And California again just lost a great citizen.
Sure.
Because of what goes on. So
well, look at SAS headquarters. They moved from New Mexico to Indiana.
Yeah, another example.
Very, very, very good example there.
Yep.
So
these are just small pockets of people that we know.
Yeah.
And it's happening everywhere.
Yep.
So
absolutely. So anyway, folks, if you need a great state to move to, Indiana's available.
Great choice. Winters are not too harsh.
Yeah. Yeah. You say that, and then we're going to get hammered this year probably.
I come from Michigan, so it's going to have to be pretty harsh to impress me.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So beautiful weather today. Lots of rain. So
we need it.
Yeah, we needed
rain makes corn.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. See, you've already got the Indiana slogan. Rain makes corn.
Corn makes whiskey.
Yeah. Oh, now we're going to Kentucky and Tennessee. Let's go. Here we come, boys. So anyway, all right, let's talk a little bit about some old school shooting.
Yeah.
There's a lost era out there in some respects, but a lot of the shooting is still available. And one of the reasons we want to talk about this topic is this past Sunday, we just had an old school shoot. We try to do at least one a year, and then we do some special shoots like the Indiana Black Powder shoot coming up. The Make Black Powder Great Again match will be old school, but
probably not quite as old school as Sunday was.
Yeah, Sunday was pretty epic and pretty old school. And I had to dig deep in the archives to come up with that. And it was. I think everybody had a great time for the most part.
Yeah.
And they knew what they were signing up for when they signed up. It wasn't false advertised.
Nope, it was not.
But in the old school shoots, and for those that. And when we say old school, when did it transition, do you think? Or I know it didn't like flip a switch overnight, but it was.
It didn't, but I would say in our area and being in the northern part of the country, as guys would go west and south, out west and then south is really who started the transition to bigger, closer, more action based, less stuff on the clock. Those things, as people would go to those matches from here, they would start creeping back here. I know that's when I started locally in Michigan at the matches that I was involved in. That's when I started incorporating stuff. And I think the real big transition probably was in the 05, 06 areas when I noticed it the most.
Yeah.
That's when I think club administrators, match officials, and stuff like that couldn't deny that people wanted to hit, for example. And guys, when we say old school, smaller, farther targets, lots of activity on the clock, roping a steer, throwing a knife, digging shells out of a saddlebag, shooting seated,
taking your rifle up off of the door frames and such, pegs.
And the vertical staging, and there's a lot of stuff that was that we would mimic things that you would see in a Western somewhere.
Sure, sure. Pull a Derringer out of a box and shoot it. Not your Derringer, obviously.
Shooting out of a bathtub. I did that, and shooting out of a buckboard.
Well,
that
buckboards.
Kind of stuff.
I was just going to say that.
But I think 05, 06 was when I noticed, and luckily, I say luckily because I came into the game in my neck of the woods in Michigan in 02. We were still doing that kind of stuff, and then I would come down here once a year, and because we would have an off month at my home club in November when we wouldn't shoot, and we always made a trek down here to Paradise Pass, and got more old school.
Yeah,
so
we were slower to transition, and there again, it was some of the people involved, which it was the time, but we were a little slower to transition here, and it was probably 09 before we started making a really hard transition,
really embraced,
and then in 10 we flipped it on its head and totally.
I remember when you guys cut the bigger steel, and that was kind of a revamping, rebirth of the club type of deal, and because I definitely have my own opinions, strong opinions on match direction, and there's no doubt that it's undeniable that the trend is a big close steel, keeping things simple, and people want to feel good.
Sure.
It's entertainment based.
Absolutely.
And, and I also, one thing I've noticed is people also don't want to be there all day.
Yeah.
When we started, it was nothing to finish up at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, if you go past 1 o'clock, everybody's like, I got to mow the lawn, or the wife wants me home, or whatever. It drives the clock watchers crazy.
You bet.
So, me personally, if I've got something pressing I got to do, I don't go to the match type of deal. But it takes longer, and as people age, for example, crawling underneath a buckboard and shooting prone.
Yeah.
And I know if you did that now, there's a good portion of the posse that would need help.
Yes.
Getting up.
Yes. Yes.
So and that's not an age, comment. That's just, the truth. We got a lot of bad knees and hips and stuff like that, and backs. And, so I'm not going to say that, I guess me starting when I did, it was fun enough that I went hook, line, and sinker.
Sure.
And but it's just as fun now as it was then. I mean, so either, and I know that there are a certain faction of shooters that miss those days, but at the same token, I think sometimes when they get the opportunity to get a taste again, they're kind of like, meh.
Yeah, maybe not as much.
Maybe not quite as well as because everybody, it's the good old day syndrome.
Sure.
What happened to the good old days?
Right.
And maybe it's not quite what you remember.
Right.
So
yep, remembering the old Chevy cars and that type of thing, but then forgot that it didn't have power steering and air conditioning. So I just remember the music was good.
Exactly.
Understand. So a lot of other shooting disciplines kind of seeing the same thing too. Right down the road from us, we're blessed. This neighborhood here in general is very pro gun and heavy into firearms. And just down the road, about 600 yards down the road, is Beeson's Family Trust Range, and they do small bore silhouette shooting. Kind of a lost art a little bit. Yeah. They hold the national matches down there. They hold a lot of larger invitational matches there. They don't do near as much shooting as they used to, but here a while back, I made it down to one of their matches, and I know a lot of the local guys that still shoot at that. They come in here for coffee and to browse selection and buy ammo and that type of thing. But it's a much slower pace. Simple, long distance shooting, but taking wind into factor, slow fire. It's kind of becoming a lost art a little bit. And, match participation, I'm sure, is a little lower for them than it was 30 years ago. So, there's a lot of great disciplines out there. You mentioned bullseye,
silhouette.
Yep.
Some games that were extremely popular at one time.
Yeah.
That have waned a little bit.
Yeah.
And you kind of got a little thought while you were talking about that. And guys, if you're still organizing those type of events, or if you're involved in those type of events, I think there's still a market for your sport.
Sure.
Because not everybody wants to burn 300 rounds in a match and shoot, and focus on all the time and all the, and so I think that there's still a market that you can grab from.
Absolutely.
For your bullseye shooting, like the small bore down the road and stuff like that. Those are a lot less intimidating games to get into at times, because even cowboy, when you come in, it's a lot to take in.
Absolutely.
We're shooting 4 guns at a time, and if you happen to catch one of the better shooters, they're shooting 24 shots, 4 different guns in a course of fire in 12 to 14 seconds.
Yep.
That's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it is.
And it could be intimidating at times, and so I think that there's still a lot of value in some of those older shooting games.
Sure.
And you could say the same about trap and skeet.
Yeah.
I know that trap and skeet is, I know the grand does really well, and the big world national matches, but I know that a lot of smaller clubs have definitely seen a reduction in attendance on their trap and skeet programs. And they're non-intimidating, and also it's a good time to remind those organizers that when you do get new blood in there, treat them well.
Absolutely.
Because new blood is more participation.
Yep.
And if you can get somebody fired up about your sport, and get them to come back, weekend after weekend. Before you know it, they're helping you out.
Yep.
Before you know it, they're relieving some pressure.
Yep.
And, it's all about how people, by and large, what I've found is how people are treated when they show up to participate.
And appreciated to be there.
Sometimes it's not all about what you're doing, it's how you're doing it.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. And that's, that's one thing. That's a very good point. Like our crew here, our Paradise Pass crew, we have an exceptionally large crew.
Oh, yeah.
And it's fantastic. And, the point of that is they do it because they love it, and they do it because they feel appreciated, and they do it because they get to help make the decisions with the club. These are all things that, love to see. Any discipline, doesn't matter what discipline it is, take all that into account and, get more people not only involved as / customers, but also get them involved as helpers or crews or whatever you want to call them, committee. It doesn't matter. Call it what you want to call it. But us competing with all the other entertainment that's out there, even as simple as Netflix. Yeah. Netflix is a competitor to every shooting sport.
Right.
Do I want to sit home on my butt in air conditioning and watch the latest shows, streaming, or, do I want to load everything in the car and drive all the way over there and shoot a match? So our job as match directors or as range owners or, whatever, we need to make it very entertaining, and figure out what our demographic is of customers and work towards making their experience simple, in respects of getting involved, not necessarily scenario-wise, but, that's a whole nother topic. But, simple as far as getting involved, feeling welcome, no intimidation, getting them to try it. And so, I would love to see the old shooting sports start finding their own little niche and building back. And I think they're out there. So.
And, and you not only are gaining participation in your particular sport, you're gaining gun owners,
yes,
and shooters. Cowboy is a great example of that. I can't tell you how many women, for example, spouses, wives, that were scared to death of firearms.
Yeah.
They knew their husband owned them, and they never wanted to touch them, never wanted to see them, never wanted to do anything like that. Very intimidated by him. But sure. For example, Cowboy Action has resulted in some awesome gun ownership amongst females.
Absolutely.
And now you've got that those lady shooters turn into gun cleaners and reloaders, and they can handle them with the best of them.
Absolutely.
And so you're also ultimately strengthening the core of the firearm ownership community.
Yep.
In a positive light.
Right.
So when you get those opportunities to deal with people that are on the fence about firearms in general, that's you've got to think about it in the broader spectrum of things. So.
Sure. All right. Well, wonderful, folks. We covered a lot of topics again.
Yeah, we did.
And unloaded, man. We ran through it. We had a list, and we thought, well, we aren't going to get through the whole list. Well, we sure did. Yeah. So that's fantastic, and we sure appreciate everybody being here. We wanted to mention one of our other sponsors, W.R. Hall Insurance.
Yeah.
And Mike and his crew there in Warsaw are fantastic folks, and they insure us. And they have for many, many years.
They've been providing insurance since your great-grandpa couldn't get a drink, 1920.
Wow.
So,
that's pretty awesome.
They've survived a lot of stuff.
They have. Years, so. The owner is not someone who was born in 1920.
He is not.
No. But Mike's a fantastic guy. Give him a call over there. Have one of them come out and talk to you about it. And they insure everything for us. They insure vehicles. They insure our workers' comp. They do everything. The business, the inventories, all our liabilities insurance. And God, that's a lot of insurance. I spend a lot of money with him.
You do.
Mike, come by and see us. I need you to buy some new guns. So, I just thought of that. I just wrote a check again the other day for something else. But, no, it's money well spent, peace of mind, and I can sleep good at night knowing we're insured.
Absolutely.
And, get a hold of them. Great folks over there. Good to talk to. And, tell them Two Bear Arms sent you. They'll appreciate that. Yeah. So we appreciate everybody watching. We look forward to our next episode and a chance to be together. And as we always say, keep your powder dry. Thanks for watching.